I love making IMAX films about nature. That's sort of the origin of the earliest IMAX film was because you could actually look at something that sometimes was quite an ordinary thing, but in such incredible detail that it kind of came alive in a different way. Or the landscape came alive in a different way because you were plunged into it in a very immersive way. So I've always really liked that. And the other aspect of it was that it was a medium that could take ordinary people like me that aren't adventurous scuba divers to the bottom of the ocean and into space where we normally can't go. I thought, you know, it's time we had another look at Earth, because it's now many, many years, couple of decades, we really ought to be seeing what's going on now. And that was the original kind of seed, but it evolved from that, because in fact, it wasn't something where you actually go back and compare the same site from space 20 years later. Those kind of differences aren't that palpably different and aren't that compelling. It's just what you're seeing now. And so we went to NASA and pitched the film, and they said, great, but and we knew we wanted to shoot it from the space station. And of course the station, since we had made the film Space Station, had this cupola installed with all these beautiful viewing windows. So we knew we wanted to go back and take advantage of that. When we started off talking about A Beautiful Planet, the big challenge, of course, was the capture medium, seeing as we couldn't do it the usual way with IMAX cameras. So it was James who came up with the plan to test all the different digital cameras and have a kind of side-by-side runoff, which we did. And that takes a lot of concentration and planning and careful looking and evaluating. And it was a clear choice that we wound up with, but James really directed all of that. Some of it will be Earth-looking scenes, and but we need to have people in the film. Film would be very, very kind of one-dimensional if you only showed Earth scenes, if you had no human presence in there. So we explained the need to capture scenes of their life on orbit, but also I knew that I wanted to do the metaphor of the space station being like a mini Earth, having to be designed like that, because it needs, you know, kids need to understand that to survive outside of Earth, to go to the moon, to go to Mars, you know, you need to take all that life support equipment with you, and the station's a perfect example of, you know, it's not easy to do that. What I like to do is, after a crew has a flight and they come back to Earth, then I like to do a kind of very, very casual kitchen table, sound-only interview with them, which is really just a chat about their experiences after they've flown. When, you know, it should be fairly fresh when they're still sort of full of the experience. And then I cull from that pieces of voiceover that are very, very candid and natural. You can't write words like that and put them in an astronaut's mouth. They're not actors, and they weren't trained to read off a script, and I wouldn't dream of doing it. But that pays off a lot, and I think we got wonderful, wonderful sentiments and observations from all of the crews that were in A Beautiful Planet. Butch Wilmore, who was the first commander, he was kind of the person that broke in the two cameras. He was the first person up there with them, and he taught us a lot right off the bat by using cameras. We'd told him to do the opposite, use this camera for that and that camera for that. He switched it all around, and we learned great things from him. You can sort of feel how they get in the groove of, just finding that sort of sweet zone for shooting. And Butch had two obsessions, among many. One was the Himalayas, and the other was California. And he shot wonderful, wonderful. We're used to having just maybe a single shot of a location. Butch, and in fact everybody, they shot whole sequences. So we were able to get the California drought from different angles on different passes, and they all cut together beautifully. You need a voice that can sound different, and the function of the narrator in this kind of a film is to knit the various chapters together and give kind of the overview, whereas the astronaut voiceover are giving the direct experience and the sort of you are there with me feeling to it. And she was fabulous. She loved the film when she saw it. She loved and she saw it with all their voiceover in it. So she understood that structure right away and is very, very passionate about the subject matter. So it was a made in heaven situation to work with her. When you're sitting in an IMAX theater and the image in front of you is 60 feet by 80 feet, you're in it. You're there on orbit. You're seeing what the astronauts see. And in fact, what they have often said over the years is IMAX is the next best thing to being there. It really is the only medium that duplicates our experience. And so you want to bring that to as many people as you can.